Level 2, the quickest 180 minutes in sports talk and television continues. I am Gabriel Morency. More runs at Chavez Ravine. Let's roll. The Los Angeles Dodgers and San Diego. It's a track meet at the stadium. And not only is it a track meet, but the game, holy, whoa, hey. 7-3.
Third inning. Oh, yeah.
The Dodgers have exploded. And our boy Tommy in Master Control is an interesting dude with the teams that he likes. Tommy, you've lined yourself up for a life of misery, my man. So he's a Buffalo Bill fan, nothing but pain. Buffalo Sabre fan, nothing but pain.
Oh, that's misery.
For whatever reason, and I guess the Buffalo connections here, you're a Sacramento Kings fan. And a San Diego Padres fan as well. That's quite the combo of toxic pain, Tommy. I gotta say,
that's true.
I like your loyalty though. Like one of these days, one of them. San Diego did beat the Dodgers in the playoffs a couple of years ago. You got that, man. His total's up to 14.5. But man, I gotta tell you, Lou, we're talking fighting. But you want to talk fighting? This Dodger lineup is dangerous, bro. They're like Anderson Silva in their prime. Like they'll kick you in the face before you even know it.
There's not a weak link on the damn thing. We talked at preseason about it, and you made me a believer, Gabriel.
They're living up to the hype, though, aren't they? Like a lot of times, don't worry, they'll play better. It's like, nah, they kind of are just already doing it, and they'll only get better. You get the feeling that everyone will start to heat up on the team. But wow, what an explosion there!
Especially as we get past this Ohtani thing. If there was anything that could have maybe derailed them or at least delayed them, it could have been that plume. It hasn't done anything. And as we get further and further away from that, we realize that Ohtani didn't do anything wrong. I think the Dodgers are just going to gain more and more momentum.
Symbolic. He hit a home run in his first back from the road trip tonight. Boom. So
typical.
That's the key there. 7-3 Dodgers. All right. So Kayla Harrison and Holly Holm, shout out to everyone joining us on Sirius XM, channel 159. Holly Holm already took down Ronda Rousey, but that was in the past. So now she gets a new judokai coming in here, but an even more devastating one. We're talking about a gold medalist in the Olympics. Super impressive resume that she has. And she took her time, Lou, as far as mixed martial arts. She didn't rush herself into the UFC. Is she too big of a favorite, though, against Holly Holm? Does Holly have another upset left in her?
Yes and no. Yes, because this is a huge step up for Kayla. But Kayla, besides being a Olympian in judo, she also went to Dagestan to train with male Dagestani freestyle wrestlers. She's an animal. That said, she's an animal at 155, 170, where she fought in the Olympics or competed in the Olympics. And her last fight was 150. Now, she stepped on the scale 15 minutes into weigh-ins at 135 and didn't look compromised. So that's a good thing for her. That said, she's cut a ton of weight to get to weight, and I think that Holly Holm at her price gives her a fight. The only thing that causes me tremendous delay is the fact that the UFC brought Kayla Harrison in to invigorate the division. I find it hard to think in any kind of close decision, and that's kind of what I think it's going to be. I don't think Kayla's going to run through Holly. I think Holly's got enough wherewithal to keep it standing, stay at distance, and get up when she gets taken down. But I don't know how Holly can win a decision when the UFC wants Kayla to go beyond this fight and maybe bring Nunez out of retirement for a super fight with plenty of money.
Well said.
Fight to go the distance is minus 125 for the record. And I actually do think that's my pick. Harrison by decision. That's my prediction. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's I guess you want to play that bet, not prop, you could. Okay, so more champions here. So you got Sterling, former champ. Sterling comes in as a minus 170 favorite against Calvin. Contrast in styles here. Calvin's a stand-up, wants to bang and box and fight. And Sterling, not that he can't. I think he's improved his stand-up game, but Sterling obviously got to where he did due to his wrestling, Lou. What do you make about this? And this is a step up in weight too, right? So it's a little bit different. So for Sterling, right? How do you handicap that?
Yeah, I think Sterling, even though he got knocked out by O'Malley, he was compromised in that fight and given a terrible spot. But he was the bigger man at 35 in every fight.
That's true. Sorry, now you say that. I'll just warn everybody, something always weird happens in his fights. You're right about that. He got put in a weird spot. Remember the other fight, he was actually beating Peter Yan, and for whatever, he was getting killed. And, he was getting killed by Yan, and then Yan knees him in the face illegally, and then he beats him after, right? He's had a weird career, Sterling.
It changed the trajectory of both those men's careers, and Sterling is going to have to find he's going to be outmatched on the feet, as you just stated. Cater's a slick boxer, and he's the legit 145er. If you saw him in the face-offs this afternoon, he's much bigger and more structured than is Aljo, and Aljo's going to, I think, have a hard time dealing with the size in that it's going to be difficult to take him down. And if this fight's competed on the feet like I expect it to, I really like Cater. Further, this fight opened Aljo minus 120, this fight opened Cater minus 120, Aljo plus 100. Now Aljo's what, minus 160, minus 170? I'm not buying it. I'm all about Cater. There's a dog right there besides Marina Rodriguez.
Man, this card is so good. Those are the first prelim fights of the night. That's a card on its own right there.
I agree.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'd throw in Procheka and Rack as the main event. But you know what I'm saying? I'd be like, wow, you guys already have a card right there. There's another one that's basically a near pick'em. What do you think of that one, Lou?
Total firefight. This is going to be great. Now, the difference here, the reason I lean to Yuri is because he's been active, and in his last fight, he got finished by Pereira, but he was a little bit compromised in that fight, but he made no excuses about it. In this one, it's Rakic that's been off for 2 years after completely blowing out a leg in a fight against Jan Blachowicz. So I'm a little worried about his inactivity. He came a slight favorite. There's been a little love for Yuri. I agree with that. Rakic, 23% of Rakic's fight time has been in top position, and I have a hard time thinking he's going to be able to get this huge structured Yuri down on the ground. And for that reason, if it stays up, I lean to the flamboyant striking Yuri Prochazka.
I agree with Lou's breakdown and assessment. I like Yuri as well. On the other side, we'll hit Bo Nichols, who's a 20-1 favorite. The Penn State Nittany Lion phenom.
Victor Hoffman right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum has games where he has stinkers. He shoots a 4 for 16. Jaylen Brown in the playoffs gets exposed because he can't go left. Porzingis gets old. Sometimes Jrue Holiday's not consistent. Al Horford father time to catch up. That being said, I still think they're going to the NBA Finals and winning it. And I'm a Knicks fan. I hate the Celtics with all of my might.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Memphis owns it. They beat them 5 straight times, and Memphis is awful. So what does that say about the Bucks? They're the most overrated team in the NBA, hands down.
Michigan and Boston College, there's going to be goals scored in this game. But, with that being stated, the total's up to 7.5 right now. I got to go under 7.5 here, Scott.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
This sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Wow. It's a home run fest at Chavez Ravine Dodger Stadium. And we cashed both tickets, baby. We told you at the start of the show. Mookie Betts, home run, plus 475. Shohei Ohtani, home run, plus 280. Cashed them both. LA up 7-3. Game goes over the number already. And we're on the over 223 in the NBA game in the Bay Area. It should be noted the Pelicans are up 62-48 right now at the half. They're 7.5-point favorites. The total's 224.5 right now. The Sacramento Kings lead the Phoenix Suns 31-24, 9:50 left in the second quarter of play. Sacramento are plus 1.5 right now. The total is 215.5. We're talking, we got another quick segment here with Lou. Then Rob Vino steps up, and then we'll hit the UFL Week 3 and more. We're talking UFC 300. So let's get right to it, the main card here. Bo Nichols, a 20-1 favorite here, Lou. At some point, all right, we got to start getting him real opponents because he's a 21 favorite in every one of his fights so far, essentially.
That's correct. I totally agree. I mean, I've already put just a little lunch money bet on the other kid just for fun, but Bo Nichols should run right through him, and we got to get him a real opponent pretty soon. You can see where he's placed on the main card ahead of Yuri and Rakic, that the UFC is backing him. And when they back a guy like him or a gal like Kayla, they want something to happen, and that's probably what's going to happen.
Charles Oliveira is constantly underestimated. He's always an underdog, and he always finds a way. And people always say the same thing. Well, you know what? I really respect him a lot, and yeah, he's found a way all the time. But, man, this time he's in a little bit it's too much for him. But he always finds a way all the time. And here we are right now. Plus 175. What do you think of this fight here? But Arman's a freaking monster.
Yeah, and I've always been taught that kryptonite to BJJ is world-class wrestling, which is what Arman is. But Charles is taller, longer, has been in with better UFC competition. And his last fight against Makhachev, he laid a tremendous egg. I know he wants to bounce. What's keeping me from betting this fight, and I'm not on either side, is the fact that he's been rung a little bit his last few fights and put on his pants. And that just starts to scare me when you got a guy 36 years old giving up 6-7 years to a younger opponent. And so this is one I'm going to watch and enjoy. And I really don't have a strong feeling either way. My heart says Charles. My head says maybe the Armenian.
I think that's a fair breakdown. There hasn't been a guy I don't know. I'm sure there's other fighters that their opponent's resume would match, but it started right when he came into the UFC with Olivier. This guy's been fighting killers since day one. So it's a good point, Lou, that you raised as far as the wear and tear a little bit. It's got to catch up at some point. And but man, is he ever resilient? And he's pretty good at bouncing back too. I know how many times has he lost in a row? I know earlier in his career, like he takes pride in bouncing back after bad performances, but it seems like a bad matchup for him. Okay, Gaethje and Holloway, they're doing that baddest man thing. Gaethje's a minus 163 favorite right now against Holloway. What do you make of this fight, Lou? Fireworks.
I do have strong feelings on this one, Gabriel, but it's not to a side. It's to the fact that I believe this fight goes to decision. And I look at Gaethje as aggression and power. I look at Max as speed and distance and precision. Now, Max went up to 155, got the brakes beat out of him by Poirier 4 years or so ago, but he went up quick and only took 3 months to do it. He wasn't toned. In this fight, he took 9 months to do it. He's razor sharp. He's totally motivated. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's taken some wear and tear, but so has Gaethje. In a fight that I think it's the only one lined 4.5. Of course, there's only 3 fights going 5 rounds, but it's lined 4.5, slight edge to the over. I think it goes to a decision. And it's interesting. I think maybe I lean to Gaethje on the decision only because the way that they're judging fights today is based on damage as opposed to volume. And so that leads me to think that Gaethje might get the nod. But I think you flip a coin on this one because I believe it's going to decision. And that's the way I'd like to bet it rather than a little juice on the over 4.5. I'll just take it to go to decision at plus 100 or minus 110 or wherever that price is right now.
I can't wait to see this fight. I can't wait to see it. The whole card is awesome. Justin Gaethje and Holloway. So as you mentioned, Gaethje's minus 163 favorite. Holloway is plus 137. History is being made. We have a first all Chinese championship matchup where the champion is Chinese and the contender is Chinese, which they've come a long way in a short amount of time. If you think about the development of the UFC in China, Lou, right? I mean, China had hopped on board a little bit later. It's still a market, that they're trying to get into. The women have been better than the men with the Chinese fighters. Hard to make a case for the underdog here, Lou, isn't it? It seems like the favorite wins this fight.
All day, every day. But I think it's going to appear to be much closer than the line indicates. Jan, the challenger, has been at Alpha Male for a year and a half or so, developing wrestling. And as you and I and Cam know, you don't develop wrestling in a year and a half. But she's put on mass and structure. She used to be a tall string bean of a girl. Now she's well more structured. And I think she's in position to put up a good fight and have some pride against Wei Li, who's strong, ferocious, aggressive. But at the end of the day, her wrestling is so dynamic that I do believe she's going to get Yan down, get on top, and do some damage. I think this one's probably a decision fight, but a one-sided decision fight, and in favor of Zhang Wei Li.
And finally, in closing, we got 2 minutes, so we've timed this pretty good, actually, going into the last fight here with Hill and Pereira. So I'll just throw it to you here. Just one thing I was going to say about Pereira. Kickboxer, he came in only basically Adesanya wanted him. Adesanya made him, right? It bothered him that he lost to him in kickboxing. He comes in. They have their wars. Pereira's a badass, bro, just point blank. Like, I can't get in front of this guy. What's your take on Hill's physical conditioning coming back from surgery right now? And I've read some fighters, Lou, in talking about this fight, saying that they think he's coming back. He's not really. It's a little bit too soon for him, for a guy as tough as Pereira. But Hill's gonna, he's gonna take the fight. What's your take on that?
You stole my thunder. Listen, Hill ruptured his Achilles in July playing basketball. He was targeting UFC 301 at the end of May to come back. He went to every UFC event known to man from November to February. And then when the UFC was struggling to find a headliner for 300, they reached out to Hill. He's taken this camp on 6 weeks, 8 months after a ruptured Achilles. When I saw him on the scale tonight, he had a little bit of a tummy. And he's a bad dude. He's game, but the notoriety, the fame, and the big check that the UFC wrote him to be a headliner on this event, I think, have lured him back a little too soon. And the last thing you want to do against Potan is be compromised in any way, shape, or form. Let's not forget that Pereira, when he stands at distance, 23% of his damaging blows come from leg kicks. He's going to be targeting that calf on the Achilles side, and that's just a bad recipe. I would be remiss to think, and I'd be irresponsible to even think that Hill is going to be able to compete past 3 or 4 rounds here. I really like Potan.
I totally agree, and this is revenge, too. So Hill beat Glover Teixeira, but that's like beating Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now you got to beat Luke Skywalker, who's representing the gym. Right? No, it's true. Alex Pereira is with Glover. That's his guy. He trains with him. It's like, you beat my old buddy up? No. He was old. I'm not. Like, it's revenge.
Yeah.
Victor Hoffman right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum has games where he has stinkers. He shoots a 4 for 16. Jaylen Brown in the playoffs gets exposed because he can't go left. Porzingis gets old. Sometimes Drew Holiday's not consistent. Al Horford father time to catch up. That being said, I still think they're going to the NBA Finals and winning it. And I'm a Knicks fan. I hate the Celtics with all of my might.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Memphis owns it. They beat them 5 straight times. And Memphis is awful. So what does that say about the Bucks? They're the most overrated team in the NBA, hands down.
Michigan and Boston College, there's going to be goals scored in this game. But, with that being stated, the total's up to 7.5 right now. I got to go under 7.5 here, Scott.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. The Friday Night Free Show continues. This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. The Dodgers are winning right now 7-3. We're in the top of the fifth inning. San Diego scored 2 runs in the first inning, but the bats have just exploded tonight. And a great night for the props, and it's nothing new. And, in fact, the man that joins us, Rob Vino, knows all too well, being a Dodger fan, and we often talk about the trifecta of the over 1.5 total base bet and the home runs as well. So it took Ohtani a little while to get going with the home runs, but we've been nailing them. Rob Vino steps up, and then RobVinoSports.com, WagerTalk.com. And Rob, when the show started tonight, before the Dodger game started, we said tonight's an Ohtani night. The interpreter has turned himself in. He's going to jail. Ohtani's been cleared. It's his first home game back tonight. Dave Roberts, and they were even talking about, is there the shadow being lifted and just sort of everything, they can move on with their lives. He hits a home run in his first at-bat. And Mookie Betts had a rough week in the Midwest and on the East Coast, right? They were playing in bad weather. He wasn't terrible, but by his standards, he didn't have a great week, and I expected him. Dude, he hits – Rod, let me ask you. Ohtani's home run prop is plus 275 type thing, plus 280. Mookie Betts is nearly plus 500 every night. Mookie Betts hits more home runs than Ohtani does. Mookie Betts' home run prop is actually one of the best sort of secret bets in sports, bro.
Yeah, because he's still not looked at as a home run hitter, right? A guy who hits leadoff. And, if you ask anybody to rattle off the, guys you're most feared for hitting home runs, Mookie Betts is going to make that list. But when the numbers show up, Gabe, you're right. He's right there. So those are extremely steep odds for a guy who does hit home runs quite often, and way to take advantage of it tonight. And with the Ohtani situation, I looked over at Cam's portion of the screen, and he's kind of smiling as I am now that thing's over. Yeah, maybe the interpreter did bet all that money. Who knows? But Shohei's clear to go. So let's go Dodgers.
No, I'll give Gabe credit too, Rob. Gabe, it's one of those things you stick with because it started off scary. You're like, when is Ohtani going to hit a home run? And then he went, home run, home run, home run. And it's a lesson that we have to learn to people getting into this stuff with ties in games and stuff. If you're going to stick to a system, you can't get off it. You got to ride it out. It's going to hurt sometimes, but you know what I'm saying, Morency? It's very important to stick to it, because especially don't get off it, because eventually the guy's going to go on a heater and hit a lot in a row. And that's what's happening.
Well, the best time to jump in on Ohtani was actually when he started to hit them. It was 8 straight games. He hit his home run in the 9th game. It was obvious, right? And we even said, once he cracks one, the floodgates will open. And the floodgates haven't fully opened. Wait till the weather starts getting nicer. Like I said, you have to realize, guys, and even though he hit a home run in bad weather, but the Dodgers played in really bad weather in Chicago. They tried to get the game stopped, but they wouldn't listen to them. And then Minnesota wasn't very nice. It wasn't as bad as Chicago, but it wasn't like the puddle of mud that they played in Chicago. But back home, 7 runs up on the board. Wild game in the desert, guys. The St. Louis Cardinals had a 6-0 lead on the D-backs going into the bottom of the 5th inning, but the D-backs have put 6 up on the board. It's 6-6 there. The Oakland Athletics, favored for the first time this year, are up 1-0 on the Nationals in the bottom of the 7th inning. They're minus 450 in game. Mariners are beating the Cubs 4-0 right now. NBA basketball, 71-66 Pelicans over the Warriors. We've got the over, 223 in this game. 71-66, 7 minutes left in this game. Any thoughts on the NBA card tonight, Rob?
Yeah, I thought Golden State would have been a good play, Gabe, and is still to be determined. Obviously, they're making that patented Golden State third quarter run, right? That's what we know the Warriors for, is those big third quarters, and they've tightened up the gap. 137 with 7:23 left, probably time to go ahead and get that thing over. It was a tough call, back-to-back situation for both, and there's certainly a lot of playoff implications. I only played one NBA game tonight, and it's funny, Cam mentioned just stick to whatever you're playing. Sometimes, Gabe, I think Cam hit on a good point there, is that we see things and get proactive knowing that we saw things, and they don't work out the first couple of times. And then you bail, and all of a sudden it starts to work out. You saw it just a little too soon. With Charlotte, I've just ridden these totals in Charlotte games in any capacity, whether it be full game, whether it be team total, opponent's total. Tonight I had the full game over 217.5 with the Celtics, despite the fact that the Celtics were going to rest some guys reportedly earlier today. And it coasted home, 229. Charlotte has just shown us the last month of the season, the coaches told us, the lame duck coach, Steve Clifford, that, we're going to go small. We're better offensively small. They picked up their tempo, guys. Heading into April, they were ranked 29th in overall tempo. Now they're up to 18th. It's crazy. And their points per game have gone up by like 8.5. Tonight they didn't get even 100, but Boston did the heavy lifting. So worked out well.
We have an NHL update right now. The Edmonton Oilers and the Arizona Coyotes are going to overtime. Tied at 2.
Yeah, we can both win. I got the +1.5. You got the Oil. Let's go.
I have the Oilers in a parlay with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are winning 7-3. So, oh boy,
here we go.
Yeah, but I also have the Vancouver Canucks to win the Pacific Division, much bigger play, and the Oilers. It matters if the Oilers only get 1 point tonight. Like Vancouver probably hangs on to win a division anyways, but it's a fine line. Like it would matter if Edmonton doesn't get the full 2 points tonight. It would just put Vancouver one step closer to nailing this thing down. And the fact that McDavid keeps not playing shows Edmonton doesn't really fully care, right? I'm not saying they don't want to win a division, but the fact that McDavid's not playing shows that they're not in a sense of urgency. It's 4-1 for the Vegas Golden Knights over the Minnesota Wild and 3-0 for the Calgary Flames over the Ducks. So, Rob, UFL football, week 3. I like this card this week. I thought last week was a little bit tricky. And look, we had some pushes, right? The Houston game, I think the Houston total too landed right there. On the 41 was at 23-18. The numbers were crisp last week. The matchups were kind of, I loved week 1. I was a little apprehensive last week. Like the Michigan game, you and I talked about, I was like, man, the number just feels so sharp. And it was 7, it was 6.5. They win by 7, right? This week, I kind of like the card more. I don't know if it's just me, Rob, but I look at the games. I'm like, you know what? I like this. I like these matchups this week. And I'll start off with the DC Defenders and the Arlington Renegades. I think DC are a little bit overrated. And I think Arlington at this point, Rob, if you look at the schedule that these guys have played, they had to host the Birmingham Stallions, who are the class of the league and the class of the USFL and XFL. And they had to go to St. Louis on national television in front of 40,000 people. I think going back home now, Defenders played on Sunday night, actually. They played the last game of the week at home. I think Arlington get in the win column for the first time this year, this week, Rob. Agree or disagree? Arlington wins this football game.
I would agree. And I was, like you say, we did the show last week, and I was a pretty big proponent of that Arlington game over against St. Louis. Remember, St. Louis left us at the altar in week 1. And I know, Gabe, because I'll throw this at you too. I know you've had it in for A.J. McCarron, who actually has not been good, right? I mean, why would you have it? But Jordan Ta'amu, these guys are the same quarterback. Jordan Ta'amu is an absolute mess back there. DC blocks a punt to start the game last week. Get the ball in like the 18-yard line. Jordan Ta'amu comes right out and fires a ball 5 yards behind the receiver, gets deflected, gets picked, run back 98 yards. You're down 6-0 right away. I'm like, this guy, he goes 13 of 26 last week. When he's right, but he's only right for part of the game. And when he's bad for the other part. And I trust Luis Perez a little bit more, and I think that Bob Stoops might have this offense coming. They looked good against St. Louis last week, so I'm with you. I like Arlington in that situation. I do think that DC, in fact, I had to drop them pretty significantly in my power ratings. I think that Arlington's probably the right side in that game.
They're 1-point favorites, minus 115 on the money line. The total is 43.5. What's your opinion on the total in this game, Rob? DC's offense isn't great. And in Arlington are one of these teams. They're the classic between the 20s. They move the ball, and then they run into trouble at times. I'm not in a hurry to bet the over 43.5 here, Rob, but I do like Arlington.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll throw one more thing at you, Gabe. Remember that this was the championship game last year, right? Luis Perez came to Arlington late, and Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator for DC, in his blitz-happy style, blitz him, kill him, I'll get suspended for a year, I don't care. And Luis Perez picked them apart in that game last year. I could see him picking them apart again here. Question is, how much will DC score, as you mentioned? And they're hit or miss. It's hard to gauge because they are hit or miss. Tamu can make a big play. They can run the ball at times. So it's a little bit shaky. You wind up worrying about these conversions, Gabe, these 2-point conversions and these 1-point conversions. They make a heck of a difference in this league as far as totals are concerned. I stand by Arlington. Total gets a little bit shaky, but not because I don't think Arlington's going to get theirs.
It really is true, guys, with this. You have to go. There's no extra points, so there's no kicking.
Right.
But you get 1 point from the 2, 2 points from the 5, and then 3 from the 10. And it changes everything. Like you said, if the teams get it, it multiplies fast, Cam, if you're on the over. You're like, oh, wow. Freaking, we got 17 points and 2 touchdowns already. Like, you're like, oh.
You're damn right.
Like, sometimes you're into the, like, remember last week, Rob, you and I were tweeting each other, DMing, we were laughing. We're like, again, we got another one. Right? It was like 8, right? But sometimes it's 6, 6, 6, and it doesn't add up.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum has games where he has stinkers. He shoots a 4 for 16. Jaylen Brown in the playoffs gets exposed because he can't go left. Porzingis gets old. Sometimes Drew Holiday's not consistent. Al Horford father time to catch up. That being said, I still think they're going to the NBA Finals and winning it. And I'm a Knicks fan. I hate the Celtics with all of my might.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Memphis owns it. They beat them 5 straight times. And Memphis is awful. So what does that say about the Bucks? They are the most overrated team in the NBA, hands down.
Michigan and Boston College, there's going to be goals scored in this game. But, with that being stated, the total's up to 7.5 right now. I got to go under 7.5 here, Scott.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Nothing's ever easy, huh? I got over 223 in the Pelicans and Warriors. In-game totals 223.5 right now. 82-66. 4 minutes left in the third quarter. I need Golden State to get back in this a little bit because otherwise they might tap out if they're getting smoked. Sacramento's beating Phoenix 54-45. Baseball 7-6 Cardinals right now. So the Cardinals blew a 6-0 lead. It was 6-6. Now they just scored. It's the top of the seventh. They're up 7-6. Athletics are up 1-0 still right now. In the bottom of the eighth, L.A. are up 7-3 and looking for more, although San Diego just got out of it. L.A. are now minus 4.5 on the run line, 35-1 on the money line. Total is 12.5 in the baseball game. Rob Vino in the house with us. So, Rob, this Birmingham Stallions team, they're like the Max Verstappen of F1. They are the Kansas City Chiefs of these leagues, the Yukon Huskies, whatever you want to call it. They're clearly better than everybody else, right? And the magic number, like last week, was 6.5. They won by 7 on the road. I don't want to curse it, but I think this is one of those you hammer for you money line parlay players out there. You know, you get Birmingham at the back end of this money line parlay. Birmingham's not losing this game. Are they winning by 7 or more? I say they do, Rob.
Well, it's their first home game. How about that, Gabe? They're the only team that hasn't played at home yet this year, and we know that stadium rocks for Birmingham. And some of the attendance, or all the attendance numbers were posted this week, and a couple spots, Memphis and Michigan, didn't really draw. But then you get these other places where they draw like crazy, St. Louis, Birmingham, etc. So that place definitely will be somewhat of a help to Birmingham. It's interesting how Skip Holtz is working this 2-quarterback system. I know neither you or I want to see Adrian Martinez on the field. We'd rather see Matt Corral, but he just
not when I have big money, but I saw the UFL post out rushing leader last week. Adrian Martinez, 117 yards, and I'm like, don't encourage him, man. Like, don't encourage him. Like, you know.
Man, he is absolutely serving that purpose for the team when they come with the, changing quarterbacks. But Matt Corral is certainly the better throwing quarterback. How about Birmingham last week, Gabe, just from a defensive standpoint, 7 sacks against Michigan. I mean, that defensive front went crazy last week. So Case Cookus is a really good quarterback, really sharp back there, and he can make quick decisions. But he's played behind some lines where he just gets killed. I do worry about him a little bit in this game. I think Birmingham's probably right side. I would tend to play over. I just think Birmingham needs to be an overplay in most instances. Last week, I think they got picked in the end zone in the fourth quarter when they were going in for another touchdown in, a true cover, I guess, because some people might have gotten 7 in that game. But you're right. They're the better team. They're better offensively. They're better. Memphis, before I make that statement, let me not sell Memphis short because that defensive front is tough. I had them last week. They gave up 20 in the fourth quarter to San Antonio, right? 19-0 lead or whatever it was, and they blow the game. So they're competitive, certainly on the defensive side. We'll see if Cookus has enough to pull off an over. I'm probably leaning Birmingham and over.
Yeah, that's when I knew I was lucky last week, when I was on San Antonio on the money line, and I'm losing a game 19-0, and they come back and win 2019.
That's amazing.
This San Antonio team, guys, this year. So week 1, remember they beat the Defenders, and I remember, Rob, you said you pulled the Lee Corso. Yeah, not so fast, my friend. You said if you look at their numbers, right, and they hit a 44-yard touchdown pass, the punter to the center on a fake punt, and that was the turning point. Then last week it was insane. Remember, we always talk about the NFL rule. They should change like this stupid no onside kick stuff. Just go to the 4th and 15. So that's what they do in the UFL. They went to the 4th and 15. They got it. They picked up the first down, and then they went on to win the game. So 2 weeks in a row, like they pulled rabbits out of a hat here. But they've got something going on. Like Wade Phillips, he's a contagious guy, like of optimism and stuff, right? They're winning games and they're finding a way. But I agree with you. I see 40.5 with Memphis and Birmingham. I think this game goes over the number. Houston Roughnecks at the Michigan Panthers. The kicker just keeps doing it, guys. So he hit the 64-yarder. Then last week he hit a 62-yarder. and he hit a 52-yarder in the same game. Nolan, the coach of Michigan, has filed a complaint with the NFL and everyone for tampering. Basically, you're not allowed signing these players until the UFL season's over. You can't if you're an NFL team, but this guy's making so many kicks, NFL teams are just calling him directly. And they're like, yeah, bro, and it's no secret, right? Everyone knows the Detroit Lions want to sign the guy. So he has to go through it, but there's something about that stadium. That's where Tucker made his 66-yarder. So let's see him start making some kicks on the road in places. But their defense is good, Rob. What do you make of this game against Houston? Houston, you could argue, are the worst team in the league. I think Michigan finally grind out a win here. It'll be ugly. It'll be close, but they'll find a way. I'll go Michigan in the under.
All right, so let me take, and it's not a game that I love, but I want to get to Houston, Gabe, with 2.5. I'm going to continue to crap on UFL quarterbacks here because I'm going to crap on Justin Garantano, who was the starting quarterback for Houston, and thank God he got.
I wish he still was. I wish he still was as a Michigan backer in this game.
He's going to be out a few weeks with a chest injury, and they bring in Reed Sinnett, who probably should have been the starting quarterback all along. Had some really successful preseason camps in the NFL. He comes in, throws the ball all over the lot. They don't make any conversions last week, but that game was competitive with DC. Mark Thompson, remember the running back for Houston last year, Gabe? Mark Thompson, the big kid, I think he led the league in rushing. I think he's back this week for Houston, which has been through a lot of injury problems early on this season. I just have a feeling Michigan obviously didn't support the team well attendance-wise. A lot of empty seats. I think they put 9,000, 7,000 in the stands, so we don't have to worry about the crowd too much. Something tells me Houston with Sinnett starting here breaks through this week. And Michigan, like I said, leaky offensive line. E.J. Perry, I think we both respect his ability to make plays, but sacked 7 times last week. That offensive line needs to be fixed. I'm looking a little bit at Houston with the 2.5 here and couldn't talk you off under in this game. I mean, it's hard to see which side is going to score a whole batch of points. Houston did get to 18 last week with the help of a 98-yard interception return.
I'm thinking, I can't think of any stadiums. I'm thinking, is there anyone, there's no one, how close are they? But the stadium's too big. You know what I mean? Why are you playing in an NFL stadium?
Right.
It doesn't work.
That's the problem if you're the Michigan Panthers. I'm just thinking, where can you play? Central Michigan's too far. I don't know. I'm thinking, is there a stadium? Is there a MAC team I'm missing here? But no. They're around. Eastern Michigan and Central Michigan, it's not really Detroit. But even
can't
then,
go to Western Michigan. It's too far. They're all too far. They're too far.
But you'd probably be better off anyways. You don't have to be in the city anyways. You're not even called Detroit. I'm just saying, most of these teams, some of them can get away with it, but it's not ideal to be playing in a stadium that big for a league like this. Mm-hmm. St. Louis Battlehawks, they're one team that do get crowds. They got 40,000 people last week. The Battlehawks are on the road against the Brahmas in San Antonio. We're starting to get a buzz going there, Rob. They've got, they're loud there, right? They don't have another football team. Yeah. They're pretty supportive. Now the team is winning. They got a good atmosphere. It's not quite St. Louis, but they got a buzz going on in that stadium now as well. Everything keeps coming up for them. Are the Battlehawks going to turn the corner and start clicking? What do you think of this game?
Boy, when you watch them, Gabe, you wish they would, right? Because last week, I think it was Aitman, the kid for Oklahoma State, who had 2 big touchdown receptions. They just got an assortment of wide receivers who could break the game open. And, A.J. McCarron, if he could ever have 4 quarters of really good football throwing it, they could score on anybody. To the point about the Brahmas here, they've scored 7 times this year. All 7 have been touchdowns. Haven't kicked a single field goal. All 7 touchdowns. And they went out this week to show you how I think they're trying to go for this title. They went out and signed ex-Minnesota Vikings cornerback Cam Dantzler, who was a good NFL player on the corner for a couple of years there. So they're going to put him in the lineup this week. They've got some injury problems, San Antonio, but I don't want to sell them short at this point in time. But to me, the way they're playing right now, the way Chase Garbers at quarterback seems to move them at certain times during the game, I would have loved if this game was just a shade under 42. I probably would have bet over. It's sitting at 42 right now with a little juice toward the over. Still might get there. To me, it looks like it could be a 23-20, 24-20 type game. So I don't know that the Battlehawks should be favored here, Gabe, honestly. Probably early lead would be San Antonio and over.
I got to be honest, the book that I mainly play these games at used to let me tease these leagues, and it won't let me tease them.
No more teasers here.
No, that's frustrating because I can kill it. There's been like many times where I'm like, because most of these games are pretty close, actually, in this league.
Take a look, guys.
Like the teaser's four side. Yeah, you hit all four sides of the teaser.
Take the dog. Yep, you're right. You're absolutely correct.
So well, the total here at 4, like you said, Rob, the San Antonio games, they're always 1-point games. They're always close. They're always right around the damn total, too. Look at last week with the Houston and DC game, right? Got right to 41. The spread was 5. The odds makers, there's no more mystery, Rob, about these leagues anymore for the odds makers. They've got it figured out now.
Yeah, and when you look at them, Gabe, there's like a home where you can open these games. Like in preseason football, all we ever see is like 335, 335, 335. They know where that home is for a preseason game to set a number. And here it's becoming like that 40.5, 41.5 range. Just put every game in that range unless you have two defensive-minded teams together. And it's probably going to come out somewhere near there until these offenses really get clicking. We got to remember there's no preseason for these teams. So the offenses sometimes do take a couple of weeks to get going, and maybe we'll see some higher scoring stuff down the road. I forget which league it was, Gabe, last year, XFL or USFL, maybe both, where we started to see some overs really start clicking after the first couple of weeks were out of the way. So maybe that happens here as well. But St. Louis should be scoring more than they do, even though they got to 27 last week. That's kind of where they should be every week with that receiving core.
No, great point as far as no preseason is concerned. CFL preseason around the corner as well. Not that all far off to the CFL season starting. We'll have another league in the rotation to lay it down on. And we're officially less than 2 weeks away as well. Speaking of Michigan and Detroit, the NFL draft in Detroit, less than 2 weeks away right now. Rob Vino in the house with us. So, Rob, before we get you out of here, Major League Baseball, have you had a chance to take a look at Saturday's card yet, or you've been locked in on the football?
Yeah, I was locked in on a lot of NBA and the football, so I haven't seen it. I'm looking at it right now as we speak, as a matter of fact, just to see if I pick up on anything off the top of my head real quick here.
And let me just jump in. The Nationals have tied the game. Oakland were 10-1 a couple of minutes ago. Only up 1 run, the A's. It was minus 1,000, 10-1. Now it's 1-1. Suddenly it's like, oh boy, Oakland might not win this game.
Oakland
jumped in on the Nationals.
We should have bet the Nationals out of spite.
Right now, the A's are minus 120.
Victor Hoffman right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum has games where he has stinkers. He shoots a 4 for 16. Jaylen Brown in the playoffs gets exposed because he can't go left. Porzingis gets old. Sometimes Drew Holiday's not consistent. Al Horford finally time to catch up. That being said, I still think they're going to the NBA Finals and winning it. And I'm a Knicks fan. I hate the Celtics with all of my might.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Memphis owns it. They beat them 5 straight times. And Memphis is awful. So what does that say about the Bucks? They are the most overrated team in the NBA, hands down.
Michigan and Boston College, there's going to be goals scored in this game. But, with that being stated, the total's up to 7.5 right now. I got to go under 7.5 here, Scott.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we'll get Rob Vino out of here, and one of his colleagues, Tony Finn, going to step up. Anything to talk about Tony behind his back, Rob? Any pot shots for him we should know? Anything happened this week?
I think last week we took all the shots we had in Tony, but we got nothing but love for Tony Finn, man. That guy's great. And his baseball opinions are, you know what? I did a lot of shows with him for a few years, and you lean on him for some baseball advice. He's real good at that stuff.
So NHL and NBA playoffs start next week. Mm-hmm. I saw a line. We know one series with the Clippers and the Mavericks. Mavericks were underdogs. Clippers were minus 140. The Mavericks were plus 120. What do you think about that? And do you bet the NHL playoffs at all? Are you going to step onto the ice at all, Rob?
You know what? It's the only time of season where I do. And again, I have to lean on others. I'll probably be texting you to tailgate because I love watching playoff hockey. Again, probably no other event like it, like playoff hockey, the intensity hanging on every second in those games. So, but the NBA playoffs for sure. I mean, without even hesitation, I would take Dallas at plus price in that series against the Clippers. Luka owns that team. Crazy that they're the number 1 rated defensive team over the last 20 games. The guys, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, and certainly Daniel Gafford have given them rim protection that they've never had before. Gabe, they're allowing like 107 per game over their last 20. If they're only going to allow 107, they're going to win a lot of games, which they've done down the stretch. Kidd announced he's not going to play any starters on Sunday. Probably why the Clips are coasting here tonight, because now they know they've got the 4 seed locked up if Dallas has lost already and won't play. But I would try the Mavs.
Yeah, I just don't trust the Clippers able to flick that switch. Dallas playing better basketball coming in to this right now. Rob Vino, wagertalk.com, RobVinoSports.com. Always great stuff, Rob. Excellent insight with the UFL. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome stuff. Go Dodgers. Rob's a smart man. He's a Dodgers fan.
Yes.
Not a Philly fan.
No.